Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I've got quite a few requests from you podcast listeners to make more content on supply chain analytics. And you know what? Ask and so you shall receive. In this podcast episode, Dr. Hall interviews Sanjiv Gupta, who is a long-time supply chain analytics industry veteran. This is one of Daniel Hall's contacts, so I'll let him introduce him. But I did want to reiterate, though, that if you have any content recommendations or requests, I'm all ears, and feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn about those requests. Without further ado, let's jump into the podcast episode.
Hello, I'm Daniel Hall, Chair of Economics at High Point University. I'm delighted to interview our guest, Sanjiv Gupta, President and CEO of OpsVeda, with branches in San Jose, California, Bangalore, India, and right next door to John David and I in Greensboro, North Carolina. Sanjiv Gupta has over 38 years of experience in the sales, consulting, and analytics fields. He has worked for Flextronics, Enlita, and SAP before becoming the founder and CEO of OpsVeda in 2010. Happy 10th anniversary. OpsVeda has secured 2 patents on their systems and has worked with companies such as Monat, Siemens, Ralph Lauren, and Western Digital. OpsVeda stands for Operational Intelligence, and I'm excited to see how the field of operational intelligence has changed and how you, the audience, can operationalize your career trajectory in analytics. Welcome, Sanjiv.
Thank you, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here. It's great reconnecting with you and great talking to High Point University folks.
Yeah. Well, I gave a little bit of introduction there, but tell us a little bit about your career and the inspiration and founding of OpsVeda.
Well, thank you again. So I have been in and across, in and around supply chain and operations for a long time, as you mentioned. More than 25 years. I started out as I'm an engineer by education. Started out as an engineer. ERP software happened. Became an expert on ERP software. Came to New Jersey, came to California eventually about 25 odd years ago, and focused on implementing operational solutions for large enterprises such as Tyco Electronics, such as Bristol Myers Squibb. So got my early experience in the industry, working across either high tech or industrials or life sciences. Then got bored of software, thought I should change my career, went and did my MBA from Berkeley. And the objective was to go away from software and do something else with my career. Lo and behold, after the MBA, I changed the profession a little bit, but a few years later, I found myself working for SAP, the company, and then a few years later, I found myself starting OpsVeda. So it's been about 10 years now, just over 10 years. I guess the Silicon Valley bug of if you are in Silicon Valley, you got to start a company, is how it all started. And then we had a few inspirations. We found that there was a significant gap in certain areas, and that led to starting of OpsVeda.
So when you thought you were out of the software world, they pulled you back in, huh?
just the opportunities. This is all the more important because your focus is a little bit about how do we guide the students. Life can take different journeys, right? You could take different paths to get to a place. It does not necessarily have to be one predefined path.
Oh, that much is certain, and especially in this day and age. So a little bit of terminology, so our audience is, interested in analytics careers. And I was wondering if, in your words, if you could kind of just describe the difference between BI, AI, and OI, so business intelligence, artificial intelligence, and what OpsVeda is offering, operational intelligence.
So that's an interesting question. And by the way, I haven't thought about it in exactly those dimensions. But first, the classic business intelligence. It is the process of acquiring data, cleansing data, and then repurposing data to serve a business objective, right? So provide some intelligence around business. Typically, BI is associated with latent data as of yesterday, as of this morning, which means business intelligence typically tells me what happened. It does not do a good job of telling me what is about to happen. It does not necessarily do a good job of helping me change business outcomes. Operational intelligence, on the other hand, is more associated with continuous intelligence, live intelligence. So it is looking at data as data is changing. It is interpreting that data, and it is trying to tell me what might be the opportunities that we address. So OI is the evolution from BI to OI, right? Real-time continuous intelligence with the objective of changing certain business outcomes. Now you brought in AI. Generally, AI is not always used in the same breath, but artificial intelligence is when the intelligence is made much more powerful with the help of predictive intelligence and prescriptive intelligence. And now, if the intelligence is so precise, can the system take the action that I would otherwise expect a business user to do? So artificial intelligence is trying to simulate the kinds of actions that we might want a business user to do. So where the system takes over on behalf of the user and begins to trigger certain actions. So it's about bringing action into OI is where I would put AI. In the context of this stream, of course, AI has got various different definitions and different use cases. But in the context of AI, OI, and so on, I think it's kind of interesting how that continuum takes off. It's the action on top of operational intelligence is where AI is very beneficial.
Oh, okay. And very interesting. Yeah, I've been exploring this space a lot, teaching economic decision-making with data. And so my students have been exposed to business intelligence and data science tools. And so we kind of start off with Excel and end up with machine learning, Power BI, and somewhere in between we do SQL, we do Tableau, Power BI. So we kind of give them a Whitman sampler of this world in which how we're using data tools to make better decisions and improve outcomes. And so that's what economics is always interested in. And I think I'll have to pick your brain at another time about your engineering history, because I'll be teaching economics for engineers this spring as well, so with our new engineering school at High Point University. And I see that you know, OpsVeda has kind of come along with this, I guess you would say, evolution in which BI, which was looking at what happened, OI is looking at what is happening right now, and then AI is like, well, what could happen, or maybe what should happen in a way. And so y'all have an AI tool as well that you run with your stack called Juni, correct?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it started taking a step back, right? So OpsVeda was our big discovery, was that every organization has got certain groups, right? There is a sales team, there's a procurement team, there's a manufacturing team, there's a logistics team. Interestingly, every ERP software vendor out there gave each of these teams their own set of transactions: sales orders, purchase orders, production orders, delivery orders, so on. We realized that all of these transactions have a similar structure: what, when, where, and how much. What kind of a transaction is it? What are the attributes? When, what are the planned events and actual events against those transactions? Where, what are the location codes? Where is it supposed to ship from? Where is it supposed to be made? Where is it supposed to go to? And how much, what are the quantity, value, and numbers? So we created a new data model, and we called it process agnostic data store. And then we extended it process agnostic measure store, and then a learning database. So what OpsVeda is really doing is continuously streaming data and storing it in our process agnostic data model. So all the ERP vendors decompose the enterprise transaction processing in departmental silos OpsVeda is continuously recomposing in real time all of that data and trying to do demand supply matching, trying to link business users to locations, to attributes, and so on. So as we have our own data model, it affords live analysis of data that is streaming in, and that's where continuous intelligence comes in, and that's where operational intelligence comes in. So interestingly, what OpsVeda can do, most other systems are not able to achieve in real time. Now, that's because of the way we are storing data. What we realized was the way we are storing data, now we need OpsVeda engineers to do non-conventional stuff, right? Anything that OpsVeda has not pre-configured through live storyboards, we need OpsVeda engineers to do, to answer additional questions that a customer might have. So that's how this agent called Juni was born. Juni is a domain-aware search agent which understands what a business user might want to search for, and it is AI powered. It understands business domain, it understands user intent, it understands history of what users have searched for, it understands what needs attention, and it presents information based upon the kind of query searches that a user initiates, right? So that's Juni for us. That's our AI powered engine that is supposed to make business users become self-sufficient or self-reliant with the OpsVeda platform. It was born out of necessity, right? Our own proprietary data model. Now, on that proprietary data model, only my engineers could do stuff. Then we said, how about we create a new agent which will unlock our proprietary data model? So the advantages of OpsVeda data model became a disadvantage at one time, and then we created Juni in order to fully realize the benefits of this unique data model. I mean, we have got multiple patents on this now, so it's kind of very exciting. But Juni is our agent. I hope that answers the question. It's a long answer, but I wanted to tell you the reason why Juni was created in the first place.
So in a way, Juni is y'all's Siri, y'all's Alexa. You know, it's helping translate what the business user wants into the functionality that the software needs. And you know, that was kind of my whole venture into this field, is that, you know, in economics we talk about like creative destruction a lot, and I worry about how technological change can make students' skills obsolete. And I said, well, you know, not every person can be a Python programmer or data science quant. That's not what the market needs. We do need to somehow connect the silos between the quant team and the C-suite. And so we do need data translators. And so I wanted to train my students to know just enough to be able to run these types of queries between the two silos. And what Juni is doing, and with y'all's, you know, process agnostic system, is kind of providing a lot of the same functionality through programming, through software. And so it's really interesting to see that, you know. And
right. So we live in an environment where increasingly low code or no code environments are required, so that we don't really want a lot of engineers, because that has been one of the biggest challenges of classic BI. There is no shortage of tools, there is no shortage of platforms, and there is no shortage of new tools and new platforms coming in order to address the problem. Every company that we go to, and every company that your students are going to interact with, they have got a number of data visualization tools. They have got a number of data translation tools, right? I mean, there are ETL tools, there are ELT tools, there are extraction tools, there are data lakes, and there are data swamps. So there is no dearth, and there are multiple programming languages and so on. Increasingly, there is evolution of tool sets where business users should be able to intuitively configure or query the system in order to find what they need, right? Whether or not I'm thinking and I'm typing my query, system understands what my queries are. So that's the path. Now, of course, as you said, a lot of your students are learning a number of different, somebody learning Tableau, somebody learning ClickView, somebody learning certain other technologies, someone is learning Python. The most important learning, and this is where the economic theory and the business perspective that your class might bring is more important. If the student understands the business context, it is what I find is that the understanding of business context is more lacking rather than the ability to work with the tool. Most tools have got enough help out there that if I was interested, I could learn that tool or I could begin to play with that tool. But most students and most, some of our newer employees as well, and I think that has kind of shaped how we recruit, how we select, right? What kind of skills we are prioritizing. The skills that we prioritize are not the actual hands-on Python skills or hands-on technical skills. The skills we prioritize are an appreciation of business process. The skills we prioritize are how fast can they learn new tools and technologies, right? New techniques rather than technologies, because most technologies are making the practitioner self-sufficient and self-reliant. So business appreciation of business knowledge, appreciation of business process, appreciation of really what supply chain really means is more important than the hands-on experience with one tool versus the next, because most tools can be easy to learn in a matter of days. Increasingly they're getting there.
So there's been a lot of debate on hard skills versus soft skills. It almost seems to be like there needs to be a third domain that gets overlooked, and that's just domain knowledge skills and just knowing the field that you're working in and knowing how to apply the basic theory, what you've learned, to problems you haven't seen before. That's a major driver of value. Of course, it's harder to signal those things than hard skills and soft skills. I mean, you have to have experience, but if you're just coming out of college, you don't have a lot of experience. You have to put out projects and portfolios, things like that, to stack along with it. And so, the world's changing. A lot of our students, they might have had an internship secured or a job secured, and then it was canceled because of disruption to COVID. Operations to supply chain is no exception to business processes that have been affected by COVID. So just from your perspective, like, how have things changed recently, and what has OpsVeda and perhaps, or what types of adaptation skills are you looking for an employee?
Yeah, so one of the most important things that have changed since COVID, right? COVID is bad for all of us personally. It has changed, no more travel, and I hate that. I wish we could do this in person. But as things are more and more increasingly remote, one, we are getting used to remote, right? It works. It's more efficient. In fact, we have realized in many cases, not always, but in most cases. Second, historically, businesses wanted to achieve certain changes, certain transformations, certain technology implementations in a matter of, I'm going to first do an RFI, that I get some information, then I'm going to do a proposal, then I will eventually decide, and then I will implement. It could be a 3-year digital transformation journey, and which was an advanced company. Nowadays, can we do that digital transformation journey in 3 months because I need to get it done? My business needs it, right? So inventory optimization is not a 3-year journey. Inventory optimization is, let's figure out what's not working, what's not moving. Let's figure out what to do with it now. And let's figure out where the shortages are, because customers are not going to wait around for it. So digital transformation has become a need which needs to be addressed in this quarter and next quarter and this year, right? So the time cycles of of technology investments are shortening, and that also changes the speed. The learning cycles are also shortening. So if I had resources who understood my business process, if I have to solve a problem within 3 months, I really need people who already understand my language, who already understand my business, right? It's not hard to learn. Operations and supply chain, it's not hard to learn. But I think the horizon in which we have to learn is significantly crunched. So resources and candidates who are able to demonstrate an ability to learn rather rapidly is definitely beneficial. Second, and this is also driven by this whole agility notion, right? For the longest time, the OpsVeda, we used to suffer from enterprise sales cycle where enterprises took months in order to make decision, and which is aligned with the first point that I made. But now we are seeing a significant acceleration in customer deal cycles and significant acceleration in the number of concurrent implementation that we are seeing. So I think the cycles have changed, the expectations have changed, and therefore the expectations from resources have changed. Any resource, if they know Tableau, they know ClickView, they know 5 other technologies, they know how to do Python coding and so on and so forth, perhaps they have the ability to quickly become very productive on OpsVeda. If they were to demonstrate an appreciation of operations, general appreciations of operations, general appreciation of how transactions are structured inside the company, right? There is a customer, there is demand, there is order management, there is procurement or inventory arrangement that people will do in order to fulfill those orders. There is manufacturing or sourcing, and then there is everybody got shortage because hey, we all have shortage and we all have overage. Everyone has got inventory problem. There is shortage of those units that are needed, and there is too much of those units that are not needed, and that's the story of everyone's supply chain. So if candidates appreciate these concepts, I think they can be more successful in their search. The appreciation of these business concepts is more beneficial than really the hardcore appreciation of specific tools and technologies. Because more often than not, you will find people, your students will find people who want resources, who have an understanding. The technology understanding is either assumed, or it is assumed that they will figure it out themselves. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that does make sense. To just sum it up, you're looking for fast learners, system thinkers, they may have the prerequisite knowledge, or they have enough confidence that they can learn it quickly in that setting. So that's good.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. I think this point can be stressed enough. Lately, when we come across, we have recently hired a lot of resources from your local universities, and I think High Point University should be one of our targets as well. Most resumes, and I'm sure your student resumes are no different, most resumes have got enough number of technology and tools and technology. Everyone has worked with a number of tools and number of technologies, and it is very hard to figure out, can this person do what OpsVeda needs them to do, and how quickly can this person be productive in front of a customer, right? So hard and soft skills, we talked about. Soft skills are required because someone has to be effective in front of customers or working in a larger team setting. Okay, so that is soft skills, equally as important as hard skills. Now each company, right? AI for OpsVeda is different than AI for some other company. Yes. The Python is the same, but then the nuances are different. So we have recently adopted this thought process that, hey, if you are, I cannot possibly test you for all the skills that your resume is claiming. So here is what I will tell you. We have recently done a lot of automation within OpsVeda, which means if once the system, the operational intelligence provides enough decision points for the business user. And if the system is so intelligent, do I really need to rely on a business user to make those decision points, or can I automate that decision with the help of some robotic process automation? So when we talk about RPA, there are a number of tools. So sometimes I give an exercise to new candidates saying, hey, go download this community tool, download it, play with it, and in 3 days, can you tell me how you would address a specific problem? So the speed with which these students are able to go address a problem is more important quite often than the specific knowledge of a specific tool set, because I don't think universities can necessarily teach all the tool sets. There are just too many tool sets, and I don't think Daniel can teach all of them, right?
No.
You can teach agility, you can teach supply chain, you can teach economic theory, and I think that's more powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely good to pick some domain and get really good at it, and then that knowledge can transfer to other areas, and to just try to be knowledgeable about every single thing. You could spread yourself too thin in that aspect. You mentioned robotic process automation. Now, I guess there's a lot of talk about, artificial intelligence. Of course, that means many things. There's a lot of people who claim that they have artificial intelligence. They don't. They're just using some form of traditional statistical analysis. They put an AI sticker on. What role is robotic process automation playing in operations and supply chain management right now? And like you said, we don't need to know everything, but shouldn't there be something that our students should know about RPA?
I think if your students want to know about RPA, they can learn RPA in a matter of days. And some of my latest hires have learned it in a matter of days, and that became one of the exhibit A, as to see how fast I could do this, and therefore I will be successful. So it's a matter of days, not a matter of weeks. The starting point, the details of anything is complex, but at least being able to learn a new technology rather rapidly shows that you are trainable and that you can learn on your feet. So RPA, in the RPA tools and technologies have so far focused on automating the mundane. And it always bothers me, right? The success of certain things is much more pronounced when it happens at scale. At scale, you can only fix the mundane, right? It is perhaps the wrong example, but Uber has disrupted the taxi driver. I mean, it has disrupted many things, but it was the roles that were earning minimum wage. Those roles have been disrupted with the help of certain technologies. Similarly, RPA is at the moment trying to disrupt the mundane. I make certain changes through certain spreadsheets. I'm doing certain repeatable, repetitive tasks. I want to automate those tasks. But who does those repetitive tasks? So those are the lower wage workers. So RPA so far has been reasonably successful in replacing the lower wage workers with the help of automating some of the repetitive tasks that the lower wage workers do. In the context of OpsVeda and in the context of operational intelligence and supply chain, I think the real opportunity of RPA is to automate the higher value decisions, automate planning functions, automate supply chain functions, automate customer engagement functions. So OpsVeda is leveraging RPA in order to automate certain decisions that the operational intelligence platform is offering. So it's like, if the system is so intelligent, and the system has already made a strong recommendation with a high level of certainty, at some point in time, the user is going to say, when you have this level of certainty, go ahead and make the action. So those are the kinds of action that OpsVeda is trying to automate. So RPA is great today. RPA is addressing repetitive mundane functions and bringing automation over there. I think RPA will evolve into addressing high value decisions. And I think those automation in high value areas is where significant value will get created.
So there's really no way to make yourself robot proof if, RPA is starting to seek higher and higher levels of decision making then. Is that,
Well,
would you agree or disagree?
Well, there will always be most people struggle with. There's only so many hours. We don't have enough thinking time because there is too much doing to be done, right? If I have the help of RPA, I can automate things where not enough thinking is required, right? Still highlight the high value items, but not enough thinking, so that we all can spend a little bit more time on thinking. Real value gets created when you get to bring thought into your actions. And I think RPA should free up some time for thought. Lately, even in the higher wage working class, there is a lot of repetitive work, not enough mind work. Daniel gets to do a lot of thinking because he's in academia. I'm in business. I don't have enough time to do the thinking. So hopefully, with the help of RPA, we can automate ourselves out of the job, and we can spend all the time thinking great stuff.
Well, I could give a personal testimonial to how RPA has helped me. I'm getting into Power Tools, Microsoft's Power Tools. So I did Power Automate, and so I grabbed a pre-made widget off of the market that they have there. And now, instead of having to figure out where I want to file my email attachments every time I get an email, it just automatically gets sent to a folder in OneDrive, and then I can deal with it later, just knowing that it's safe and secure. And so that frees up time for me to think and process things. And I think it's good for students to get familiar with this field, just to get a better idea of like, well, if I'm going to do something, how much of my job it can be automated, and how can I use automation to make myself more efficient? So I think it's a potential substitute for your labor, but it's also a potential complement to your labor. And I think if you're familiar with the technology, if you start to demystify some of that, then you can do some really exciting things.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of opportunity, I think on the RPA front. In our own journey, when we started, OpsVeda was all about visibility, and I think this also informs the whole progression of technology, right in front of us. What used to be big data, lots of transitions along the way, but big data, then AI, then RPA. It's almost like, hey, when OpsVeda started, it was lots of data. We said we'll do real-time visibility. Then came real-time operational intelligence, and said, if the system is so intelligent, why don't we make decisions, real-time operational decisions? And now we are saying operational automation, right? With the help of RPA, we are going to automate some of these decisions. So that's a logical progression. And as you can see, too much data, big data, lots of data. Hey, we got to make sense of it. There is artificial intelligence, right? Human can't make everything, and therefore AI. What do you do with all the AI? If you have all the AI that you need, then you begin to use RPA in order to go trigger some action. So it's really, ultimately, it's about the outcome change, and it's the logical progression. So knowing some of those automation tools can definitely make your students more effective or more attractive in the marketplace.
So, if you're new to analytics, you're new to data science, you're new to business, you're just kind of new all around. How do you make decisions on where you put your eggs in these respective baskets? And by the way, the baskets, they are converging at this point. It's really hard to say, oh, I only do analytics, or oh, I only do data science. A lot of those tools are converging. Today's differentiators are tomorrow's prerequisites. So You know,
Yes.
Excel used to be very high level stuff. Now it's just something that you got to know. And that's going to be machine learning in a couple of years. I mean, and you know, there's lots of low code, no code tools for automation, for machine learning. So the question is, you know, what kind of strategies? I mean, imagine you were like someone in their 20s right now. What would you do?
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough, especially during COVID. It's tough. We are, as I said earlier, we have a much larger team, but I am in my role. Sometimes I have a hard time. I don't have enough budget for hiring everybody that I can talk to, but I think there are a lot of people who are trying to differentiate themselves. So clearly having a perspective, a point of view, in my experience, right, personally, everybody's experience, scenario, situation is different. But in my personal view, when you have a point of view, you can get more respect. So I come across candidates who know all the tools and technologies, but they haven't spent enough time thinking about how to use these tools and technologies. Certain others who may be a little bit greener on the tools and technologies, but they have a stronger point of view on what the business need is. So knowing the business context of a company, right? Research the company, understand what they might need. Knowing that business context helps me connect better with the person who is trying to recruit some certain resources. So my guidance would be develop a point of view. Opinionated people are better than non-opinionated people, especially when it comes to solving business problems, right? Most resumes, as I said earlier, most resumes have got so much technology. Most fresher resumes have got so much technology that the universities are teaching. It's hard to tell what's the strength and what might not be the strength, right? I mean, everybody got a couple of databases. Everybody has a couple of visualization tools. Everybody has a little bit of Python, etc. over here. How do you differentiate? The business knowledge or acumen is beneficial.
What about certifications? Do you think that they would have value in helping sort out some of those skills? Because aside from like the open source software, there's certification programs for almost every one of these tools. So the question is like, is this a fool's errand to kind of keep pursuing these certifications, or does it help to at least get a couple of certification in some of these skills if you're listing a bunch?
Yeah, I think, as I said, there is no shortage of certifications, and I think these days it does inform a person, right? Different hiring managers prioritize different things. So I don't want to say that, hey, what works for me works for everybody else. But certifications can tell me that someone is inquisitive, was inquisitive enough or driven enough to get certain certificates down, but there is no dearth. I mean, these certifications are available so easily and so rapidly, and you could do, X number of hours of Coursera, X number of hours. I mean, you can get as many certifications as you want rather quickly. As I've said, I have had my new hires, a number of them have lately been told on a Friday saying, okay, here is this tool. Here is the link to this tool, and here is an interesting problem. Let me see how far you get. And on Monday, we will have a conversation. And I have been amazingly surprised by some of these people because certain things, right? Automation Anywhere, UiPath, a few other tools, you can achieve a lot. You don't really need certification because most of these companies, to become so successful, they have made all the help available rather easily. I mean, there are YouTube videos and everything. So I don't know whether certifications help, but it does tell, if you're trying to add stuff to the resume, as I said earlier, it's very hard to discern what's the true skills of a person. So certification may be helpful, but the ability to demonstrate inquisitiveness, certification don't necessarily demonstrate inquisitiveness, because if you are inquisitive, then there are enough tools available, certificates or not, there are enough tools available for you to be able to solve a problem.
Now, what about domain-specific type certifications? I saw that you have earned your APICS certification with the Association of Supply Chain Management. So I guess those are a little bit harder to earn than say a Excel associate exam or something like that. So I guess, you know, are those perhaps, if you had to choose, you probably want to pick something that would be something more specific to a domain, right?
Yeah, the supply chain, that's 25 years old, by the way. I was young, so as I say, certifications may not matter as much. I remember I myself got certified with Apex, and that allowed us to stand out, right? Everybody else knew ERP software. I knew ERP software, and I was Apex certified, and that was hard to get at that time. So yes, certain domain certifications definitely more beneficial than tool certifications, because tools you should be able to learn without certification. You realize, right, what you have practiced. Create your own portal where you have created certain content to be able to show what you have created is more valuable than sometimes a technical certification.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Well, let's see. Gosh, so many exciting things to talk about, you know, and you know, it's really neat what y'all are doing. I had a chance to look at y'all's product, and I really liked how, you know, you had these kind of, you know, role specific, you know, storyboards. You know, they look like dashboards, but y'all call them storyboards there, and then in there, you know, you have different choices about animation, and like when the graphs pop up, like they bounce a little bit before they stabilize, and kind of gives that live feel for the fact that these data is like dropping in real time, you know. So when it comes to like branding yourself, like, you know, what do you think makes the OpsVeda brand great, and how could we translate that into our own personal brand? You know, what tell me a little bit about the art, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, well, so OpsVeda, it was we have been fortunate enough to be featured by Gartner and a few other analysts over the years. Gartner had a category called Operational Intelligence Platforms, where we have been featured very early on, almost 6 years ago. The genesis of the name of OpsVeda was all about operations, and Veda stands for intelligence. We're really writing scriptures. So Veda in the Hindu mythology stands for scriptures. There are 4 types of scriptures, and we said in the context of operations, we have a fairly significant number of operations executives running the company. We have a few decades of operations individually. Each of us have got a few decades of operational experience. And ultimately, our purpose is we have a unique way of acquiring data, continuously streaming data into OpsVeda. As data comes in, system automatically analyzes that data and presents information in the form of storyboards that business users can consume. So we said these storyboards are supposed to be telling a story. So ultimately, OpsVeda is all about writing all kinds of scriptures for operations. It spans from planning and forecasting and order fulfillment, supply, logistics, manufacturing, and so on. So we said, these are scriptures we are writing. We are writing how operations ought to run. And that's how the name OpsVeda came about. Veda is scriptures, Ops is operations. So OpsVeda is all about operations and supply chain. Supply chain tends to be a bit limiting. There was a time when the company focused more on supply chain branding associated with supply chain. And then when we went to our customers, we realized the head of supply chain is not necessarily responsible for order fulfillment or for planning or for logistics or for procurement. So the supply chain organization is really a support organization which is supporting all of the other functions. Really, the OpsVeda is more about operations, right? So operations is all kinds of internal functions it's a vast segment, because you could look at the company's P&L and realize that 60-70% of the cost of the spend is in the operations arena. So ops is big enough for large enterprises, and I think it's a big enough segment for us to excel in, and that's how the OpsVeda came about, right? Scriptures for all things operations. It works for us. I do have a number of people ask me how we came about the name. Storyboards are scriptures for operations, and we like to believe that we have some unique perspective which no one else can offer in the marketplace.
Well, I certainly like what y'all are preaching, and it's been a pleasure talking with you, Sanjiv. And thanks for sharing your insights with the audience and with my students.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It has been a pleasure. I enjoyed this, and hopefully very soon we'll meet in person, and I can address your students in person as well. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too.